I've been into Sasquatch since I was young, basically since I saw the Patty footage. To me, it's never been far-fetched, and I stumbled across just some really not just cool stories or cool experiences, but like lifelong experiences, which is what really kind of blew my mind in a way because everyone's catching a glimpse here and there, at least to my knowledge at the time. Everyone was catching a glimpse here or there, and they'd have to go way out in the wilderness or something to do it. And so I'm coming across these people who've had and continue to have close encounters, and I chose the best three. There's a guy named Dennis who the book begins with, and then the guy named Jeff. Dennis is from Oklahoma, and Jeff is in Ohio, and so Dennis, Jeff, and then Freeman. And the first Dennis, he's the one that's had like experiences going back to the '60s when he was a kid, all the way up until recently in 2007 or so, but right before he moved to Florida. And he kind of moved, in his words, he moved here in hopes of never having to see one again. His experiences started off, I won't get too much into it, but they started off as a child with in Oklahoma, him growing up on peanut farms and farming peanuts, and he began having Sasquatch basically coming around. To him, they were bears. He called them bears. He didn't know anything about Sasquatch then. It wasn't especially being a young kid. So and it just continued on. But as he got older, his relationship with them got more hostile and threatening in a lot of ways. Jeff in Ohio, he hasn't had so much lifelong experiences with them. The 4 or 5 years he has been having experiences, and then which led to him researching, he's had some really he's been able to get really close, especially to a lot of their young ones, and then he's also suffered the consequences of what happens when you get too close to their young ones, and so it's very important. And then and then Freeman, the last person I interviewed is Freeman, and what you're going to see within the book is that all three stories are going to interrelate without even. It's not from clever editing. And see how all three of them relate to one another and how each story actually fills holes with the other stories without even having to try, which I thought was really amazing. So,
and you came out of this with almost like a 5-step process, and I guess that's what you mean by filling the holes. You connected the dots between them, right?
The 5-step process I can't really take any credit for that as far as creating it. That's all Freeman. And that's going to be in a separate book, Easy Steps and Essentials book. That's going to be more of an instructional, how to have an experience. What we really want to do with this book is have people. Well, I want to have believers want to have experiences, and I want non-believers to become believers.
Because all these folks, when starting out young, I mean, they probably initially took this to be some kind of an animal, right? These animal beings in the forest.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I said, Dennis called them bears because he didn't know what to call them. Freeman, his first sighting, he thought was a baboon. Because that's what happens usually, especially back in the 60s and 70s when, sure, Patty was out and stuff at that time, but it wasn't as big as it is now. There wasn't as much information about how they behave and that type of thing. So, or what to look for,
As that's what I found is that the people that are with them at a young age get real deep in that relationship. I mean, they've somehow established a bond there. And as they get older, what I found is that Sasquatch, if they're in their immediate area still, will tend to just readily make themselves seen and known to those people and be more brazen than most.
Without a doubt, yeah, you'll see that with Dennis. I mean, brazen doesn't even
describe it, huh?
No, man, trying to describe it, I'm speechless. So I'm glad I got to write it down.
Now, the other thing that I found I've spoken to a number of people who have gotten to know them at a very young age, little kids, and
right.
Maybe they played with the little ones or whatever. And, sometimes they're taught things by the Sasquatch that maybe, people like ourselves might not get that close and learn. Did any of those guys, without giving it away, were any of them taught anything that was extraordinary that most researchers may not be aware of, or that you discussed?
Yeah. They definitely learned a bunch of things that most researchers, the majority of researchers just don't even majority of the big name researchers out there just aren't even close to understanding or even being aware of. So yeah, it's like I said, I chose the best 3 out of probably about 5 or 6 that I narrowed it down to like 5 or 6, and then I chose the best 3 out of the 5 or 6. It's going to be different than any other book, any other nonfiction book out there that I'm aware of.
At what point did you yourself start getting out and trying some of the things they were doing?
I didn't have to go far for my first experience or my first encounters. They started with Class Bs, and then a month or 2 later, of me, going out there every night and talking to them and, building a relationship, I guess you could say. And then they started showing themselves. So, first in the daytime, then at night, and then just whenever they felt like it. Some friends and I built a recording studio in an industrial park that borders suburban area here in Florida, and we built it inside of a big warehouse. And in Florida, when you build anything, when they laid the foundation and all that, put the warehouses up, whenever you build something here, you have to leave as much of the land natural as possible. We have all kinds of laws in place, especially for all the animals and protected species and things that we have here in national parks. So right behind the studio is, I actually have a picture of it on my wall album on my Facebook page. It's a Google Earth photo. I took the location off, but it's a big wild strip of land that's got a little waterway. It's not even a flowing waterway. It's more like a natural retention trough type of thing that goes out to this. It's not even a huge piece of land. It's maybe, I don't know, the whole thing is probably about 5 acres or 6 acres. But there's
Is there an out for them if they want it?
There's an out. They come and go, but they stay. They're there, like, I would say 99% of the time they're there. Actually, only one time that I went out there and I was completely alone. Nobody was at the studio or anything. I just stopped by to see. They weren't there at all, or if they were dead quiet, which is completely unusual. So it's never been like that before. So anyway, so I started. At first, I was hearing things, at night, like crunching around. It's like maybe 100 feet across from the back of the studio. There's a fence on our side, it's 6-foot chain link fence, or about 5-foot chain link fence. And then about 40 or 50 feet across on the other side is another fence. And they are, and on behind that fence is it's all just like jungle, and palm trees meet big great oak trees.
Now, when you're hearing this stuff, you're probably thinking, "There's no way, man." No, even though Freeman's told you about this, you're probably
before I spoke to Freeman about it, before I even spoke to Freeman, anytime I'm out in the woods or near a dark area that's wooded, that's uninhabited, I'm like, I wonder. I always have, It's always, Sasquatch has always been in the back of my mind. So I just wondered because I was hearing bipedal steps. I've lived in Florida since I moved here from Tennessee in '89. So I've grown up out here, and I know what animals sound like, and I know what other things sound like, and so anyway, I wondered. But then I showed Freeman on Google Earth. I was like, hey man, check this out, because he's got a knack for it now. I've developed it as well. And I'm sure a few other people know it, but being able to locate them just by looking on Google Earth, anywhere in the world, really. And
yeah, you can.
So anywhere that there's habitat for them. So I told him to check it out, and he was like, yeah, man. He's like, yeah, they're definitely there. So I was like, all right. So me and my buddy Marty, who's actually the one in the photo, that photo was taken in San Francisco, California, and that's where Freeman's from. So me and Marty went up there in September, I want to say, September of 2011, and we got to go around this place, and I'd never had a sighting at that point, or even a Class B. until I got there, or actually more of a Class C. In the photo, you see the teepee structure. That was an older structure. It looked like it had been there for maybe 6 months to a year, 8 months, something like that. And so that was like my first, like, you know, cool, man, you know, Sasquatch did this photo. And it was actually in a, you know, see, Freeman's whole thing is that, you know, they aren't just like, and this is what I always thought, that you know, even though I wondered, you know, hey, you know, could they be here? I didn't really expect them to be there. So I always thought, like, you got to go, like, way out in the mountains, you know, way out into the wilderness or whatever, into the woods. And
well, that's, you know, that's what all the old school guys would tell you. They tell you that they need 800 acres per Sasquatch, and you know, I don't know if that logic holds true for an animal, but for you know, a man that knows how to budget his food and plan and how to eat, you know, it doesn't hold true.
Right, and in fact, I mean, even if you get lost somewhere, it's 9 times out of 10 it's best to, if you find a good spot, it's good to stay where you're at until, you know, people go wandering looking for, I guess, you know, better things or better, you know, food or better whatever, and end up screwing themselves and getting, you know, stuck out there with no help and facing the consequences of that. And but yeah, so I was under the impression that, you know, I had to go way out. Well, I was like, I live in Florida, you know, I know that there's reports from in the Everglades and all that, but I'm in Central Florida, so I was like, well, so anyway, yeah, and even still, you know, even for, like, I guess basically when I talked to Freeman, when I realized Freeman was having experiences in urban and suburban California, San Francisco area, I was just like, all right, man, this is like totally, you know, this is totally cool. So I'm thinking that, well, if they're there, then could they be either here? Could they be in, you know, suburban areas here? So sure enough, I'd make a long story short, I showed Freeman the satellite photo, and he was like, or I gave him the Google Earth coordinates, and he was like, yeah, they're definitely there. So sure enough, man.
So you started going out there, you said, during the days, and what, just sitting around and doing whatever he told you to do. I'm sure it's in the book. And you said that you had a sighting. What was your first sighting like?
Yeah, so well, let me just set up real quick. When me and Marty got back from California, I was kind of stoked at that point. Like, all right, cool. They're, you know, so and then Freeman told me they were behind, you know, he thought they were behind the studio, and so me and Marty, we were out there at like 3 o'clock in the morning one night, 3:30 in the morning, just he and I, dead quiet. It was calm, quiet night. No one was at the studio. No one was in any of the warehouses. It was just dead quiet. I said, and Marty could do a real good tree knock sound with his tongue above the roof of his mouth.
Uh-huh.
So I said, Marty, you know, just for the heck of it, man, give a tree knock real quick. So he, you know, aims it out to the woods right behind us and does one big knock. And like 2 seconds later, we got four knocks back, like 50 feet away. Okay, this blew my mind. Like every hair in my body stood up. Every emotion went through me at once. I mean, I actually tears came out of my eyes. Like not like crying, but like just the fact that, you know, dude, that's not a homeless person making a tree, you know, sitting in the middle of the jungle waiting for us to do a tree knock at 3:30 in the morning. You know what I mean?
So they were within range where they could see you, right?
Oh yeah, they could see.
Yeah, so they knew you did it. They were just giving you a thrill.
They could see us, but we couldn't see them. It was pitch black, you know.
Right.
Especially after that, so it was intentional. It wasn't, you know, they do different knocks. They do warning knocks to each other when people come to the area, mostly in the wilder areas. But this was a return knock. Like, I recognized that you made this noise. So
now, did it scare you at all, or did it kind of freak you out?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess fear was one of the emotions that went through my body. But I didn't turn to run. Like, me and Marty both looked at each other wide-eyed. You know, total wide-eyed, just like, oh my gosh, you know, like this is nuts. My first instinct was just to like hunker down. I just squatted down and just like squatted there, you know, just like, whoa. Actually, we both did at the same time, you know. And so, you know, gosh, I really don't remember if anything went on that night. I think we kind of both after we processed it, we're just like, whoa, my mind was blown. I was shaking just to know that they were there. There's no doubt in my mind at that point. And I think we both kind of just like walked back inside the studio and just chilled out, and
right.
like an hour later. But and so that was just at that point. That was it. It was on from there. So my first sighting was probably about a month and a half or so. 2 months later. After that, at that point, I was going out every night, going up there, and I would walk down like 10 feet back from the studio, but I'd walk down maybe 100 yards or so, just back and forth along the fence, just talking to them, and they would whistle, and then at that point they were making themselves full known with vocalizations and tree breaks, and they'd make the pop and tree break a lot.
What kind of things did you say to them?
Oh man,
just tell them about yourself, or just general conversation, or?
Yeah, I would just talk to them as if I would talk to kind of maybe an elderly person, kind of nice, just nice and calm. And I would just be like, hey guys, ask them how they are. I'd get tree break, I'd get pop
right.
breaks back.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
And so at this point I was just like, wow, completely floored. But so this went on for about, like I said, month or two, and then I'd be going up there in the daytimes. Well, towards the couple weeks before I had my first sighting, they were coming out in the daytime, or at least making themselves very known in the daytime. I could hear them moving, I could see the trees moving, and they were crunching around bipedally, and then the night before my sighting, I was squatted. There was a bunch of people in the warehouse at the studio, but I had kind of went to the spot where we first made the knock and squatted down again, and I was looking through, and I could see there was light behind the trees, and I could see the multiple of their silhouettes just pacing back and forth behind this set of trees in their spot, and I was just like,
were
wow,
they juveniles, or did they look pretty big?
They were all sizes, and that was what was cool. But no, there were some big ones. People think that Florida Sasquatches don't get past a certain size, but
that's garbage, man. That's garbage.
Yeah, exactly. They get the same size everywhere. I mean, they might get bigger in more mountainous regions, just because.
Yeah, up in the Pacific Northwest, maybe they get a little bit bigger. But I got to tell you that we got them 10 to 12 foot in Georgia, and I'm sure you guys do too down there. So.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, they were big. They were lurking. It was a lurking. There's always one big lurking shadow, or Sasquatch. And they're like the head. At least they seem to be. They don't show them the big ones. Don't show themselves that much, but they're always there. And they kind of direct what I get. What I understand is they direct what is to be allowed, or who's if they definitely chose to show themselves to me at this particular time. So let me get to my first sighting without getting too far off the rail there. So it was 5:30 in the afternoon, the day before I'd gone up there, and I started to notice that in the trees, another kind of misconception is that they're always on the ground walking around on two legs. Well, that was not my first experience. Okay, I was looking up in the trees, and where the palm trees meet the great oaks, those big swamp oaks, I call them. The palm trees, the leaves hang over, and they make perfect little rooms almost, little nests, or whatever you want to call it. So I started wondering, could they be hanging out way up in the treetop, So I've been paying attention to that spot. So the next day I went up there at the same time, 5:30, and this was here, in September, October. It's still warm out and light out at 5:30. So I'm watching I'm sitting right up against the fence, basically, a couple feet back from it, watching about 50 or 60 feet across, up in this big tree, and at the place that I thought was a little hut or home or nest, and I see it move. I see it start to shake, and we have a lot of big birds that fly around here, big cranes, sandhill cranes, and all that stuff. And so I'm thinking, okay, could a bird be getting ready to fly up out of here? And a bird didn't fly out of it, but the Sasquatch did. He jumped and
he jumped down?
No, he didn't. Well, he jumped from the little nest onto a tree, onto a palm tree, and then from that palm tree onto another big great oak, like 12 o'clock in front of me, man.
Wow.
You know, again, about 50, 60 feet, maybe a little more, I don't know. But so and what he did, he clinged to the side of the tree, but upside down. His head was facing towards the ground, and he was, like I said, 12 o'clock at me. Picture a big oak tree in front of you, and then on the right side of that oak tree, like on the side of it. So his whole body I could see, but as soon as he landed, and again, I always describe it as like he moved like so unnaturally. The closest thing I can describe it to is you ever see Spider-Man like stick to the side of a building. That's what I was thinking of the side of this tree, but he was so fast, man. I saw him fly from the palm tree over to the oak tree, and when I say fly, and he soared through like maybe, I don't know, 20 feet.
That's amazing.
Which wasn't much for him, you know. I couldn't really tell the distance because he was so big. You know.
Now, was this a little guy or was this a good size?
He was like 7 to 8 feet tall.
Wow, you're kidding.
And no, and he was all gray. I could see when he jumped. I could see from his nose down. We have like big. It's called Spanish moss that hangs down on the oak and stuff right here.
Yeah.
And so it was hanging. They love to hide behind that stuff, especially in the trees. And so it was hanging down in his eyes, like across the top of his head. I couldn't see across the top of his head till he landed on the tree. And then like I said, he landed upside down, and he didn't look at me or anything. He just stuck on the tree, but so like a. You ever see a jumping spider? Like, you know, jump, turn itself around real quick. That's how fast he turned himself up right side up, and then he quickly shuffled himself to the back of the tree and then came down. But I could see when he moved to the back, I could see his hands and his feet hugging the tree like a tree climber would with spikes, but he didn't have spikes, obviously. I could see his hands and feet coming down the tree, and he just scooched down the tree and just stood there behind it. And at that point, he had his back to me, but he just stood there with his back to me. And
I've never seen them climb the trees. You know, I used to hear the little ones. The little ones would go up these oak. I say little; they're about 5 or 6 foot tall, skinny though. But they'd go up this oak tree and get up to the top in like no time. They start shaking stuff down. I couldn't see them, and it just amazed me. And then I didn't think the big guys really got up there until one night I was out there and there was no wind. And there was an oak tree right in front of me, and all of a sudden that oak tree starts swaying back and forth. And I said, there's no way that's a little guy doing that, because that's a big old oak tree. And so, for you to say that, I just never knew that those big guys could be that agile climbing up those things. But you see these, up in my area, you see the big pine trees that are huge in girth, and you'll see the chimneys and stuff, so it has to be the big guys.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like that's the last thing I expected to happen. I'll tell you that much. But they don't move. The way they walk on the ground bipedally is not how they move on all fours, and it's not how they move when they're in the trees. They move obviously they don't walk on 2 feet in the trees, but I mean they do. But it's not how they walk on the ground. They don't walk. They don't have that walk where they swing their arms and like back and forth thing. It's just like fluid. It's so fluid. That's what really blew my mind, with how he moved. I couldn't believe it. I turned to tell somebody, but there was nobody there. I was like, did you guys see that? And there's nobody there, of course. I'm thinking, if I go inside right now and say, dude, I just saw one do this, no one's going to freaking believe me, except for Marty. But,
I would love to see the mechanics. Did you see the mechanics of how he was crawling? Because I had him belly crawl out of some weeds and stuff. 3 of them shot up probably 50 feet in 2 seconds. I mean, it was very fast. I was just trying to imagine the mechanics. How you saw him belly crawl? Or?
Yeah, well, he jumped from the nest. I couldn't see him in the nest, but I saw him come out of it. And honestly, it was a blur of him going from the nest to the palm tree. I didn't really see him go from the nest to the palm tree. I saw the palm tree. I saw him hit the palm tree, but there was still a lot of other brush and stuff in the way, or tree limbs and stuff. But from the palm tree to the other oak tree, he just sprung like across, and he sprung like out, like with his feet down. Well, actually, I saved his feet. He landed. It's so weird. Like it was so unnatural. He moved like Spider-Man. Like all I can say, the time it took him to jump from the palm and then hit the other oak. Like I said, he first landed upside down, and I don't know. He wasn't upside down when he was going through the air because I couldn't see the top of his head. So his feet and his whole body and everything was kind of down, kind of like Tarzan would swing from a vine. Mm-hmm. But he sprung off the side of the tree like Spider-Man would, like boom, and then hit the other tree and landed, like I said, upside down, like Spider-Man is the best way I can describe his motion. And but way faster. And so when he turned right side up on still sticking to the tree, like just clung to it like a spider. It was so fast I didn't really even notice until he had moved around to the back, and then I could see his feet and his hands clearly, coming down. He came down quickly, but not as fast as he had jumped and turned around.
Yeah. Have you ever seen them where they like a one print? What I've noticed also is when they come out of the trees, they'll land on one foot. And to be able to land on one foot from the height they're coming down, because I could tell by the impression of the footprint, it's got some serious PSI on it, and they land on one foot and spring way out. I can't find the next print. I usually scour the area. I can't find it. And you see that
very, very typical. I've not seen them do it, but most of the prints I find are single prints. So that and they're always 9 times out of 10 are next to trees. So I've found plenty of bipedal double prints and continuous prints and trails throughout the woods. But that's very common here and other places as well, for them to jump and then land on one foot and then spring.
I mean, the strength they have in their legs is just ridiculous.
Their whole body, their hands, their feet,
everything.
And this one he wasn't like big, and he was big, obviously. He wasn't like, he was like, I guess for his size, like a size comparison, like if Hugh Jackman was his size, he was kind of built like slender, but muscular. You know what I mean? He wasn't hulking. I've seen hulking.
Tall and doing what you were saying. That's pretty incredible. That's agile.
Yeah. He was all gray. I could see the skin. I could see his skin through his hair, and his hands and feet. His fingers weren't hairy. His feet weren't hairy. I mean, his feet were hairy, but not his toes. Like like I said, he was clinging to it. So yeah.
So when you saw him, I mean, what struck you about him? Did you think like this is a man being, or was this?
No. I knew what he was. I mean, I've been waiting for this moment for like a long time at this point. I've been waiting to see one. I just never expected to see him.
But his image, what was it? What would people have perceived him to be?
Oh, well, yeah. I when people ask me, what do they? That's the question. Of course, when someone's not, that was always my question. What do they look like? Describe to me if you've seen them up close. What do they look like? Well, to me, honestly, they look like a human. And I hate to use the word ape, but they look like a human-ape hybrid to me. That's the best way I can describe them. I'm not saying they are, but that's what they honestly look like. They look like
they have certain attributes,
Sure.
But that doesn't make them that.
No, they're definitely not. But I mean, his body, was more human-like, but his ability was beyond ape-like. But I say ape-like because they're covered in hair. There's dark ones. The face, they look like, they look more human in the face, but they look. Some of them look more human than others. Some of them look more apish than others. So,
what did you see his nose or?
Yeah. Well, his nose is. There's this. Actually, in this pod, they're very diverse. They're from like brown to like gray to like dark black, and their noses. In this particular pod, all their noses seem to look the same. They kind of like. Well, actually, no. I take that back. One of their noses looks more like they're kind of wide. I can see their nostrils. I can always see their nostrils. Right. Some of their nostrils are wider. Some of them look more human-like. Their noses look more human-like. They all look cute. They're all hooded. They don't. I've seen pictures and stuff out there of like a tropical Sasquatch, and he's got kind of this like ape face. Not at all. I mean, it's ape nose. It's not at all an ape nose. Apes don't have hooded noses. They can't swim. Only monkeys do. They can't. Certain monkeys. They can't swim in water because they'll drown. So, but these guys can. They're built for it. They're built for everything.
Did you see the lips? Thin lips?
Yeah. Some of them have fuller lips than others. Some of them do have thin. They all have that kind of prune mouth looking.
Yeah.
Some of them, but some of them have more full lips. But the distance between his nose and his top lip is long. It's not like ours. It's not short like ours. It's probably it's long like an ape's, but flatter, not as pronounced or profound. Or
you're saying their nose is?
No, their lip, their face, their bottom face doesn't protrude like the ones I've seen.
No, it doesn't protrude like an ape. No.
Right.
Yeah. Now, have you heard him speak?
I've heard him mumble. I've heard him make some crazy noises. I've not heard them speak like I've heard, like some of the recordings and the Sierra recordings and all that. I've not heard them talk like that, but I have heard them mumbling around, shuffling, like several of them kind of mumbling to each other. That's what it sounds like to me. It's kind of a murmur, mumble, like a mumble.
With a deep tone.
Sometimes deep, sometimes not. It varies, man. They can mimic. I've heard them mimic everything from mechanical whirs and whistles and crazy synthesized sounding stuff. I mean, loud, like 20, 30 feet from me, to a motorcycle engine, a dirt bike engine, which is about 50 feet from me, and it only cranked up for a second. It was like.
Really?
I was actually walking off a dirt bike, four-wheeler dirt bike trail, and I thought it was funny. I was like, first of all, ain't nobody out here but me. Second of all, and nobody pushed a motorcycle right here, cranked it for 2 seconds, and then sat. I could have, I didn't see him. I didn't see the one that did it, but there was nobody out there.
That's really funny. Now, do you record it all when you're out there?
Yeah, well, I record on video. I've not really messed with audio too much because, for several reasons. I kind of, like I said, I've not been actually having encounters with them for that long compared to the type of, for the types of encounters that I've had, I guess you could say. So no, I've not got a chance yet to do a lot of the research, or I haven't got a chance to document a lot of the research that I wanted to do. But I full on plan on it as soon as the book is out and done, the beginning of February, first week of February. As soon as it's out, then I'll have time to go ahead and start documenting more of my encounters. And now, at least that pod trusts me enough that I can shoot video of them. Like, it just depends on which camera I've got on me. But if I've got my good camera with me, then I can still let me film them straight up. Like, well, they don't, sometimes they'll hide, sometimes they won't. But they let me film them, and they let me aim the camera at them and everything. They don't like, when I've tried to record, I'll pull out my cell phone at night. I've tried to record the vocalizations and the different sounds and stuff that they make. And every time I do, as soon as I pull my cell phone out, it's got this big bright LED screen. They just shut up. And so I'm like, okay, obviously they don't want me doing that. They don't like it, so I just.
Well, they're not used to it. For sure.
No, at night it lights up like crazy, and They're not used to anyone knowing that they're there. First of all, I know I'm the first person to. Well, I say I know. I think I'm the first person to know that they're there.
Now you've got camera shots of them though. Do you have good ones where you could see them?
Yeah. I mean, it's not. Here's the thing. Like, the reason why Patty looks so good is because she's not in the forest yet. She's out, and she's out. They caught her out in the sand and stuff, so you can like see her. But as soon as they hit the forest, man, they blend in. I do have. It's from my. I mean, it depends on how experienced you are at seeing them. Before I ever saw one, I was researching the crud out of all the videos and stuff online, so I was pretty good at looking at them on video. So when I made my first recording, I could see it. It was actually the day after my sighting. I went back there again, same time, about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and that's when they start to get the most active, right at dusk,
Yeah.
a few hours or so before dusk. And so I pulled out my cell phone cam, which is okay. It's not that great at distances, but yeah, and I got a big. It wasn't the same one that jumped, but it was a big gray one. He's probably about 9 feet, 9. Yeah, I'd say about 9ish, maybe more, maybe slightly less, but he was close to 9 feet at least, and he stood right at the base of this big, again, a big oak tree, not the same oak tree, but a big oak tree, stood right at the base of it. Maybe I can't remember, actually I can't recall for sure if it was the same oak tree or not, but it was again at 12 o'clock in front of me. And you got to understand, like the place I'm talking about, I could cross this fence, but it'd be really stupid to do it, even if they weren't there, because there's all this, swamp and stuff in the middle. Even if it's only 50 feet across, it's just I'd have to put on snake boots and all kinds of shedding. It's ridiculous. So I'm not going to do that without knowing that they're there. So we keep our boundaries for the most part. Like at least I do. This fence runs maybe 200. Well, I'd say about 100 yards across the back of the property, and then theirs on their sides run parallel to it. So I'm paralleling them the whole time. It's kind of like a big long French fry shape, rectangular shape. So the strip is, and then there's big property on both sides. But so they just hang out right there, and so they just parallel me, and I just walk, and and it all looks basically the same on the other side as far as the trees and the foliage and all that. So when I filmed the first one, he was just standing right there, man, and he was just standing there facing me. He kept putting his hand up over his eyes. If you go on our Tree Peekers, youtube.com/treepeekers, I think it says Studio Sasquatch, I think is the name of the video, and double click on the screen so that it blows up to full screen, and you can definitely see him. He's standing right there in the 12 o'clock in front of me, probably about, gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Well, I'll take a look at it.
Maybe, yeah, check it out. Maybe 100 feet, maybe less. But
That's
anyway,
amazing that they let you film like that. I mean,
yeah, I think it's because of the barriers. Like I was saying, we respect each other. Well, they come across. I know they do found their footprints. They've never come across while I'm standing there, but at least not that I saw. Maybe they did at night. But
now, how would you feel if you were right over there with them and they were coming around and close to you?
Well, I have been. Not at that particular site, but I have been, and it's actually.
Is it a different deal?
Yeah, it's a totally different deal, and it's a different deal at night.
Yeah.
I got kind of a funny story to tell you, but
okay.
I at first you guys almost got the video footage of this, but I deleted it, so I was kind of ashamed. But I was walking in the front. Like I said, they're in urban areas, they're in suburban areas, and they're all over the place, really. But in the front of my neighborhood is a big, huge.
But how can you say that though, dude? What's his name? Moneymaker said just declared there's only 2 to 7,000 of these guys.
Yeah, but how many?
2 to 7,000, and so you have a large
2 to 7,000 population. Maybe 2 to 7,000 in a I don't know, man, 20-mile radius. I don't know, man. They're probably more in some places, but I mean, yeah. Let's put it this way: I know what habitat to look for, and just about every place that I think is a good spot, I find at least signs that they've been there. They do move around a lot. They cross streets and they go into different wooded areas, but it's at night. But they like to stick to one place during the daytime at least, and I'm pretty adept at finding those places. So here, like I said, in the front of the neighborhood, yesterday, day before yesterday, I was walking. I was coming home from the store, and it was getting dusk, and I was like, I'm gonna pull up to one of my spots and just.
Well, you're gonna tell your dark story, right? Where you got embarrassed. Is that what you're going to? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to.
Okay. All right.
So it was just getting dusk, and I was walking, checking my spots, and like I said, this big undeveloped piece of property, actually a big sinkhole. I've got footage of it up on Facebook that I just posted today. You can see the area. It's not the time. I deleted I deleted the video out of embarrassment.
Right.
But if you go to Central Florida Sasquatch on YouTube.com/treepeakers, you'll see Central Florida. It's the first one up there, I think. Central Florida Sasquatch Skunk Ape Habitat, and I call it rearranging the furniture. But anyway, that's another story. So I walked to this spot and I checked across the street. There's a street, but the land's all for sale by the bank. It's never been developed on ever in Florida's history. It's a big sinkhole. That's why it's never been developed on. But it's like a good 12 miles and block probably. Right. So anyway, but right on the edge of it is a little street cul-de-sac that I guess they built intending people to build houses there that never did. So if you cross the big area and cross that little cul-de-sac into the next area, it's even thinner area, and it comes up right behind my neighborhood, right behind the houses and on the street, across the street from the back of them. And so I knew this was one of my spots, like I said. So I found I even got some pictures of some of the tree breaks and stuff in this area, and it's all matted down with pine needles like no other area in this whole big area is like this. It's all matted down with fresh pine.
Nah, dude, how do you know that wasn't Fasano over there eating a burger?
It might have been.
It could very well have been.
There was some Burger King.
Notice some taxi matches.
Yeah, there's a bunch of trash around, and not a sign of a Sasquatch anywhere.
I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from.
All right, hey, man, just call him like I see him, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, this area is a real small area. Like it's probably this area is probably about 50 feet. There's no borders, there's no barriers, there's no fences. I can walk straight up in it, and I do. And so I was all brave yesterday, but it was dark. Like I said, it was bright at dark. So I was walking. I still a little bit of light behind the trees, but I was walking through, and I got to like duck down and go through all their little breaks and their little tree breaks that they do and bent trees and all that. And so I'm like weaving in and out. I'm talking to the camera, and I'm telling about the area and this and that. And just as I heard. First of all, the squirrels were going up into the trees for the night, and I know what that sounds like, and I could see some of them. That was no big deal. But then I heard like something like in like 20 feet, 30 feet from me, but I couldn't see it at all, but I heard it, and I was like, whoa. So I don't even remember what I said at that point, but I kind of, like I said, if I get like the fear, Freeman calls it fear ball, but if I get the fear, I just stay put. The last thing you want to do is run in the woods at night. You run smack into a tree. If you're in the mountains, you fall off a cliff. Who knows, So the best thing to do if you do encounter one in the woods at night is just chill out, stay put, and I just squat down and hunker down or whatever, and just wait and listen. And so I heard it was a good sized crunch, and I saw some of the brush moving, so I stopped. I'm thinking, okay, a pig could run out at me at any second, a dog, who knows? And so I stopped, and so then I was like, all right, I guess it was nothing. And I was like, and just as soon as I was saying to the camera, you never know, man. I was like, it could be a pig, it could be a dog. I was like, it could be them. I was like, I really can't see in front of me, so I wouldn't know if they were there or not. And as soon as I got the word "not" out of my mouth, I just get a huge crash, and I'll be honest, Alex, man, I screamed like a little girl, dude. It wasn't high pitched, but it was I'm sure I was swearing a little bit, and and I just oh darn, but I didn't say darn. So,
but you held your ground, or did you leave?
No, I didn't leave. Like I said, I don't leave. I just deal with the fear. And
yeah. Well, you know what? You're better than most. Most would just run away, and if they left a recorder back there, they'd hear them laughing.
Right. Well, I guess it's always been my first response is just to hunker down, and I found it to be a pretty good one if you're not used to it. And like I said, I'm not that adept at going out at night. Well, not going out into the woods at night. So into their domain at night, you know what I mean? So they were just letting me know they were there. And I screamed it.
They're trying to scare you. They're trying to get a good laugh at you.
And they did. No, they got a good laugh, man. I hadn't said it. And then I just started mumbling to the camera. I don't even know what I was saying. And then at that point, I was just like, you know what? There's no way I'm showing this to people. And so I stopped the camera. I deleted it. And I just had to get my wits about me. But that's something that people do have to understand if they do encounter one out there. If it is your first time, or even if it's not your first time, if you're out at night or any time, even in the day, and
most
they are
there. You hear that stuff, they say they got aggressive with me. And I was out camping one night, and one of those guys dropped a tree. My car was away from where my tent was. It was up on the road, and my tent was down by the creek, and he dropped a tree. I heard it crack, and it fell, and I said, son of a bitch, did that guy hit my car? And so I walked up there, and, I brought my recorder with me, and, I couldn't find where the tree was. It was so dark, and it wasn't on my car, so I was okay with that. I said, don't be hitting my car. And I left the recorder on my car, and I walked away, and I heard their feet, their real heavy feet run down towards my car as I was walking down to my tent. And I said, I hear you. And then later, I could hear them laughing on the recorder when I listened to it. So
they're just pranksters.
Yeah, that's all they are.
Yeah, without a doubt. And they try to get a reaction out of you. And they got one out of me yesterday, the other day. But, especially the younger ones. It's usually always the younger, the juvenile ones, not the young ones, but the ones that are coming into adulthood. The males typically, females too, but they do. They'll crash, they'll throw things, they'll whatever. They'll scream, they'll make noise, and they'll just try to get a reaction out of you. And that's what Freeman has called fear ball. If you hold your ground and just process the fear in whatever way that is, some people, depending on what the incident is, some people might piss themselves. Yeah. Some people might just, he calls doing the noodle, which I think is an appropriate term. Your legs just go, you fall out, and just sit there for a good 10, 20 minutes or whatever. I've never had that experience. Hopefully,
I call it Dame balls.
There you go. Oh. There you go. See,
long story. That's what I said to Arla.
If you, I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was going to ask you. Somebody asked for your website. What website do you want to refer people to? I put your book website on the description, but what website do you want them referring to?
Great. No, that's cool. You guys can check out, like Alex said, Communion with Sasquatch is the name of the book, and it's communionwithsasquatch.tumblr.com, and that's TUMBLR. I guess you got it on your website there. So if you're listening, you can see it.
Now, I'm going to get this book, by the way, because you know what? I don't know all, little tricks. Everybody knows a little trick here and there, and you talk to somebody else, and they do something a little bit different, and then you go, oh, well, I'll try that. That sounds pretty good. I had somebody, it was a lady from up, I think, Illinois, that had put out, some the TV for them to watch. Now, I've let them watch my iPhone before and done that, and they get real interested. You'll hear them, easing over the trees and, moving as you show it to them. But I tried that with my computer one night, and, man, they just all came in, and you didn't hear a peep from them for 45 minutes while the show was going on. But, I'm going to get your book because I'm sure you've got things like that I could pick up on and learn from these other guys. So.
Without a doubt, and you definitely will. And also, that's really what this book is going to prepare people for. I think, at least, the ones who care to explore. and if it prompts you to want to have an experience yourself, then it's going to show you, the types of things that can happen, and then kind of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and what some things work and what others don't, and different people's opinions. Not so much mine, but then theirs. And then, of course, the Easy Steps and Essentials is going to be a straight-up guide to encounters and how to deal with these different types of encounters, such as the one I had for the night. Not to freak out, not to run, but to pass it. If you stay put and you put it back and you don't do anything and they don't get a huge reaction out of you, they might get a chuckle, but then they kind of are like, oh, so they take on the attitude like, oh, this guy's still here, okay, then the games begin.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
yeah,
I had to learn it the hard way. I had to go out there and figure out what the heck these guys were. I mean, people were telling me they were apes and monsters. Other people, I didn't really hear many other people saying anything other than that. And I had one guy just tell me how to be around them. And you figure out that they're people when you're around them. I mean, because animals don't do this stuff.
No, they're definitely a type of person, like you said. I mean, they're not humans, but they're
a people. They're an indigenous people. They definitely are. And they talk. You haven't heard them talk, but they do talk.
I know they have language.
They have their own language. They respond to your language, whether it's English or Spanish. They do. Well, I speak Spanish, English. I know they'll respond to that as well. I mean, I've got them recorded doing that, and they're people.
Without a doubt, they are. And when you're around them, when people have like a single sighting and they don't know what to think, like these guys on some of the shows on cable TV and stuff, that they go out and investigate a single sighting, and these people don't know what to think except for that they can describe what they saw, right? But when you are like having continuous encounters and you're aware that they're there, and they're aware that they're always aware that you're. Most of the time, they're aware that you're there. You can surprise them from time to time. It's very hard to do and rare, but it does happen. It's usually when they think you don't see them, But anyway, they know you're there, and you know they're there. And then, once that's established, then the relationship can take place, and you will have a relationship with them if you choose to. If they, if you're right in the heart, call it gifting as opposed to feeding, because you don't want to develop any bad habits and have them get dependent on you and start coming around all the time for food and things like that. So when I do it, it's a special thing. I do it so only that they can get to it. I have what I call my gifting pole. It's actually a big long tree limb that I cut down in my backyard. It's about 12 feet high, and I take and I'll like, for instance, here they like really ripe bananas. I mean, there's wild bananas here, but they're smaller and they're not always ripe, and so when you give them like nice big bananas, they dig it. So I'll take I put it in such a way that only they can get to it. Like I'll tie it to the top of the stick, so that only they can. You have to have fingers to untie it. If an animal gets to it, I'll be able to tell. You know what I mean? And that's so far it's not happened. So.
So do they take a while to get to it, or do they get it right away?
So far, they've taken it all, like, every time. Like, pretty much. I don't know. I always sometimes I'll take it and just leave it like right before dark, and then just leave, and then come back the next day, and it's gone. And what's cool is I'll take the stick and I'll twist it into the. If I say stick, it's good 3 inches in diameter. I'll twist it into the ground, and they will actually pick it up out of the ground and move it, and then place it back down, like, say, a foot over to the side, And,
really?
Yeah, so that's how I know.
They put it back into the ground?
Yeah, excuse me, yeah, they do. They,
cool.
but not in the same place, So that's sort of like, the first time I did that, I was like, very cool. They took it that night, and I'd taken fishing line and tied the ends of the bananas to it, and then tied that around, and I tied it, and around the top of it's got like a Y fork at the top of the branch that I put it on, and they had actually untied it, and then just snapped the bananas off at the stem. So it's only like an inch of the stem still tied onto the fishing string, and then the fishing line was on the ground, and then the stick was moved over and stuck in that made their own place for it. So yeah.
But you don't do that every time, though.
No, not every time. I do it maybe. Honestly, I know some people do it a lot more, but I personally don't do it that just from how close they are to me and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, again, I stress boundaries, and that's always good, especially in the beginning.
Well, it means more when it comes every now and then. When it comes every day, it's a handout.
It's not exactly. It's not a gift, exactly. So, great point. Yeah, great analogy there. I'm obviously passionate about the experience, of course, personally, and then. But what we're really trying to do here is lead other people to have their own experiences. That's really what I'm passionate about. I want to help people. I feel like I've been put here to help people, and I'd like to do it in any ways that I can. So I know there's a lot of people out there who've not had experience or who had and don't know what to make of them. And people helped me. Right? I wouldn't be so as far as I am now in such a short amount of time if I didn't have people who cared and who helped me. So I can only pay it forward, so to speak, and help other people. And it really is like it becomes a very personal thing, and it's a very strong relationship, an emotional relationship. It's really, really cool. So once people begin to have this, they have questions that always. And one thing I've learned is that every time a question is answered about them, a bigger question opens up. So I call it like the rabbit hole. It just gets deeper and deeper. So yeah.
Well, what if I go out there and I'm a skeptic, and all I believe is that these are just dumb apes, or maybe smart apes even, but they're just apes.
Well,
and I have, as thinking that they're animals. If I look at a bear, for example, I don't look at a bear with affection, or a deer's cute, whatever, but not
sure.
the same way. What do you think their experiences are going to be, and why?
Okay, good question, man. Typically, if that's your opinion of them, unless they do something drastically to change it, then you're not going to have much luck. That's why so many people out there who do take that opinion, or that mindset, I should say, that they're nothing more than apes, and there's only one of them, or where there's one, there's at least I don't know how many. There's plenty more that you don't see. If you see one, there's plenty more around. Rarely is there one by itself. I'm not gonna say never. That's one thing, you never say never, and with Sasquatch, and because they surprise me every time almost. But yeah,
but I've had people tell me, listen, I hear what you're saying, but I've got them near my place, and I think, and I go out there. I've been going out there 3 or 4 years, and I ask them, what do you do? Well, I go out there and I walk out to near the creek, and I sit, and it's dark, and I listen, and I hear stuff, but I can't verify that it's them. But nothing's ever happened.
Right. Well, for that side, if you don't have a negative mindset, if you don't think that, if you're closed off to the possibilities, you're most likely not going to get any further than you are. Okay. But if you are open to the possibility that you can have a relationship with them, they will respond to you, then I would suggest that talk to them, make yourself known, say hi, ask them questions, whatever pops to your head.
But that's ludicrous to me. I don't think they're people. They're animals. Why would I do that?
Well, then, honestly, if that's the opinion that the person has, then I'll just tell you straight up, you're not going to get far. Right. Yeah, you have to lose the ego. You have to drop the ego, man. You got to leave it at the door when you enter their domain, or it's essential. You will not make progress if you do not leave your ego at the door.
Yeah, but there's some people they don't want a person. They want a great ape discovered in North America. That is it. They don't want a person. So why do we bother even telling people this stuff? Why do we bother even telling them they're talking? I mean, like, we've got the show next week with Scott Nelson, and they'll be reviewing all kinds of tapes with speech. But that's not going to convince those people that are dead set on an ape. And you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, I just got home, and I was out at the dusk out here, and they were in a good mood. Oh, it's just the usual, like 50 yards over there, and kind of following you along, and kind of clicking and snapping and whistling, and a few blinkety blinks, and
blinkety blink.
Just your
Freeman,
just the normal
do you
stuff.
Get out every night, or do you just go out?
Yeah, every day. Every day.
Really? Oh, mostly during the day?
No, every evening, every morning, every evening, like in the dusk and dawn.
Uh-huh.
That's the best time for around here, anyway.
Why do you go out there? What do you get out of it? I'm curious.
What do I get out of it?
Yeah.
I get a rush that is so incredible. The feeling that I get in my body, the energy that I run through my body is so incredible. Chemistry that I feel in my bloodstream, it's like it's my own pharmacopoeia, and it's just going off. And there's nothing better than the human body for crazy feelings,
Yeah.
So I just breathe, and they're right over there, and I can't believe it. And wow.
That next thing that I haven't seen, I want to see it. So
yeah, right.
There's
I'm
always
curious
always
like that
something.
too. I keep getting blown away by the eye-shine communication thing. It's just incredible. And then you're right. Like, what else can they do, right? Like the whole subsonic thing that they do, and there's all these things they do that are just amazingly magical.
Subsonic, you mean the vocals where you can't hear them?
When you just feel the earth shake and you don't hear anything.
Oh yeah.
You just feel it go by.
That I don't understand how they do that, where they will stomp and they literally make the earth
an
shake.
Earthquake.
I don't understand that.
Well, the Tai Chi masters of old, there's old Tai Chi master legends, right? Can stomp their foot and make their student bounce, but the student's only 3 feet away.
Really?
Right? Yeah. And it's an energy. They're using the energy of their body, the focus of their mind, and the energy electromagnetic of the earth, and they have an understanding and a relationship with the energy enough that they can literally direct it and make the student bounce. They can bounce you.
I had one up from the top of the hill. I mean, it was a good hill. I was on the creek bed coming into his area right then, and he stomped, I guess. That's the only thing I can imagine. It was either that or he dropped a huge rock or a big tree, but I went up there and I didn't see anything. And I felt the earth from where he was all the way down to the creek bed where I was. It was 100 yards up that hill, I guess. And
yeah.
I went up there and I said, he had to have dropped something to have shaken that earth like that. I mean, there's no way. I looked everywhere. There was no big down trees, no big rocks that were moved or anything. And, I couldn't figure it out. And I've had them stomp by my house too, where they shook the house and I thought a tree fell. And then, went outside and he ran off.
I had one stomp from like a half a mile away.
Wow.
In the bottom of a creek, and I was at the top of the hill. And it was coming up the hill, and it was going boom, 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 like the Jolly Green Giant. It was coming the whole way. It was at least a half a mile up this hill. And as it came, it got at a third of a mile. It was like boom, boom. I mean, it was coming like it was pissed, right? And I was like, every part of my body was screaming, run, you fool! And I was just like, no, I am just going to sit here, and I'm cool. I'm totally cool. And I was kind of in a trance myself, right? As it got closer and closer, I have this thing that I do where I kind of fall into a trance with it, and it got all the way up to 10, 20 yards away in a shadow, right across the clearing from me, and it stopped right there, and it didn't move again. It just stood there, and I just kept doing what I was doing, and everything just kept going as it was going, and it just observed me. But I didn't run away. I had my back against an oak tree, and I was just like, whatever. If it's going to pull my arms and legs off, here it comes. I'm going for it. Come on. Every fairy tale you ever heard of the giants coming through the forest, or any sci-fi you ever thought, it was like that. What we mostly hear is 3, 4 in the morning. If I don't get up, if I'm not coming out to play, especially in the summer when it's warm and stuff, they'll come right underneath our window, and the window's open, and they'll go, and just wake us up, And,
so you've heard their language, right, Freeman?
Oh yeah, I've heard all kinds of things. Their language is amazing. I don't know how they do what they do. I really don't. It's layers, and it's like holographic language. There's so much. It's so rich with sound that it's just, there's so much going on in their expression that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, out there it's much more difficult to pick things up, just gauging it by the Sierra sounds and how rapidly they fire it off. And over here it's much slower, tempo. It's just much more deliberate. I don't hear that stuff you're describing. It's just it's amazing how different it is. Now, the Native Americans out there, do you know that they trade with them? the Sasquatch out there?
They did different exchanges in different places. Like some places it was the children played together, at the river, the thing that was in the middle between their two places, and they had an exchange around that. And then what they do is they would make an offering. The Indian people would make an offering, say, of salmon, and then the Sasquatch would pay them back with firewood.
Mm-hmm.
Thing that was hard for them to gather, they'd get. Thing that was easy for humans to get, they'd get, and they would exchange those things. In most of the creation myths, it says that the Sasquatch led the people to where they are now, right? In most of those mythologies, that's what happens. They came, when people first came here, wherever it was they came to, they met the Sasquatch people. Mm-hmm. And the Sasquatch people showed them where to go. And they made agreements. You live over there, and we live over here, and this is the middle ground, and we all get along. And they spoke the language of the land. So as you move across the land, the language changed because it was the earth that was speaking through them.